The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
The BVU Beavercast is proudly supported by alum and two-time All-American Monty Mers and High Country Search. Elevate your search at highcountrysearch.com.
Welcome to the Lodge. It's time to settle in for the Buena Vista Wrestling Beavercast. Join host Jason Bryant and head wrestling coach Jeff Brees as we talk all things BV wrestling. Now, on to the show.
And welcome back to the Lodge with Buena Vista head wrestling coach Jeff Brees. This is episode 27 of the BVU Wrestling Beavercast. My name is Jason Bryant, and we're winding down the season here in Storm Lake. We got one home duel left, 2 matches before we head into the preseason. We'll start out with Coach Jeff Brees. First of all, bringing things in with the new year. We had the IAC duels, had a lot of events, but how did you personally ring in the new year?
How did I personally ring in the new year? Very boring, I guess. I was excited about it, but nothing real exciting in the Brees household. We'd been on the road for probably the better part of 10 days, seeing each of our families and living out of a suitcase. And I think we got home on the 30th or maybe even the morning of the 31st. And I said, you know what? We're just going to watch the ball drop on the couch and relax and enjoy the fact that we're in our house. And then we obviously had practice the next day, so didn't want to be out too late anyway.
Yeah, we kind of did that same thing with the Super Bowl. We were expecting family to come in from St. Cloud. My buddy Charlie from ODU, who lives up in Minnesota, he just moved back. He was going to come over, and then all of a sudden he had to work late. The nephew is sick, so basically it ended up being the 2 girls, my wife and I, watching what was an epic collapse. The second epic collapse I saw that Sunday, because I was at the Minnesota-Iowa duel earlier that day. We'll just leave that one alone. Hawkeye fans probably know exactly what I'm talking about there. But it's been a while since you've been on the show. We've had things to talk about. First of all, let's recap last episode. The first national champion in BV history, Davey Jordan, joined us, and you had an opportunity to listen to that, and we got this thing set up, and it was one of these things that you and the show sponsor, Monty Merch, really kind of wanted to get Davey on the show. And what were your general reactions and takeaways from what he had to say about his experience at BV?
He was absolutely awesome. It was great to hear the stories and a lot of the takeaways about how he wasn't very good when he first got to BV and questioned whether he belonged for a little bit of time, and how he just stuck with it, decided he was going to outwork people, and how good he became. And that's something I've actually taken snippets of it and taken it into practice and pulled stuff out for the team. I'm like, look, see that this guy was a national champion and he felt this way. Everyone feels this way at some point during the process, even some of the very best ever. So I thought that was a great takeaway. Certainly a couple of stories that I edited out when I talked to him as well. We want guys hopefully not drawing the stick figure in class, but I actually connected with that. I thought it was awesome, even that story, because I remember being in high school doing something very similar, and in several class periods going by, and all I had done is drawn podiums and figured out what I was going to do as a celebration after I won a state title. And so maybe I should have done it a little bit more in college too. Maybe I would have won a national title. I don't know. But we edited that part out a little bit when we talked to him, but I still, even that was an awesome story to me, to know that a guy was that bought in, that was what was on his brain all day long.
Yeah, one of the interesting stories, it's just how he said, you're right. You know what? I don't even have any anecdote for that, because I'm laughing at it as we go back through it. Because, I think a lot of people have drawn stick figures of certain things. You were talking about at podiums. I was doing, I was outlining various sports nerdery stuff when I was in school. So we can all relate in one way or another, if it's wrestling or if it's something else we're interested in. But as we move forward, that was one of the better interviews I've had all year, not just here on the Beavercast, but on the entire Matt Talk podcast network. And I can say that because, well, and I don't mean like this year because it's only February, but in the past calendar, those past 12 months, I mean, we've had 350 episodes, and that was one of my favorites. So glad I had the opportunity to, I guess, virtually meet Mr. Jordan on there. We got a couple guys on the list. I know that the first finalist is on the radar there among some others. But as we move forward, let's just recap. The last time you were on the show, we were heading into the new year. You went through the Cornell Matman, had the losses with the IAC duels at Loris, Wartburg, Central, Dubuque. The match with Northwestern was canceled. A tournament at Pete Wilson. So we got a lot to catch up on before we finish the segment with the last time out against Simpson, going into our February 8th duel with Nebraska Wesleyan. So ready, set, go.
Yeah, some of that stuff I had forgotten it happened already. It was that long ago.
And to make a joke at a coach, we're not poking any type of pain at the kids here, but sometimes there are performances I think as a team you'd want to forget.
Yeah, we've had some that certainly were not good over the last month. I mean, a lot of it is part of the process with a team that's this young, and part of it is the reality of wrestling. People along the way, individuals will have bad days through the grind of the season. And we're just in a situation as a team right now where we can't have any of our best guys have a little bit of a bad day because it has a huge impact to what happens to the team duel situation. And we've had that happen a little bit. There are other teams that are ranked in the top 10 right now, and you can see one or two of their individuals stumble. They have that curious loss or that curious close match along the way, and you don't think a whole lot of it because they're 2-3 guys deep in every weight, and we're just not there yet. We really expect to be. We feel like we get a little bit closer to it every year, but those are some of the things that you can chalk up. I went through, distinctly remember after the Loris match, which I didn't think we performed particularly well. They're having a great season right now. Well, I didn't think we performed well against them, and I outlined, hey guys, look at this. If we just don't give up bonus points along the way. I think it was something like we won the duel by 2 points. If we just didn't give up bonus, but we gave up so many bonus points along the way. And that has kind of plagued us through January, is guys giving up bonus. And sometimes the other guy's he's just better and he did his job. So it's not necessarily always on us. Sometimes the other guy just does a really good job and he executes the way he's supposed to. But that is the biggest hurdle for us right now, is if we can limit bonus points, we can be competitive with just about anyone. You kind of saw that in the Dubuque duel. We lost a couple matches we probably could have won, probably should have won, but we gave up far fewer bonus point matches against them, and we stayed competitive until late in the match. That's one where we win another couple bouts, maybe that's a W. Again, I'm sure if you're Dubuque, you can go back and look and do the same thing and figure out from their coach's perspective, well, if we just didn't give up a pin here, we would have won by 30, stuff like that. But from our perspective, it's been a long month. It's been a tough month, but we've had a couple of guys that have really shown some really good growth coming out of it. And it's part of the process with a team that's got 2 seniors and really no juniors in the lineup right now.
Yeah, as we look at going through that stretch of the Iowa Conference, I had an opportunity to check out the Battle of the Bergs the other day. And even you see what happens later in the season, even as dominant as that said team in Waverly is right now. They dominated Augsburg at the national duels. Then Augsburg brought the fight, and things happen differently later in the year, whether they be good or bad. So you can look at every team has different performance issues down the line. Now, how much did that Northwestern cancellation kind of mess with the training at all? Did it have any impact?
It was actually a really interesting set of circumstances because we felt like we were a little bit beat up coming out of IAC duels, and then with a quick turnaround to Pete Wilson. Plus, we had the Loris duel that was supposed to be right out of the gate in the semester. That got postponed, and so we ended up in a situation where we were going to be in, I think, our 4th weigh-in 10 days if we would have wrestled all of our starters. might have been even a quicker turnaround than that, but it was a lot of weigh-ins in a pretty close time frame for our guys. And so we made a decision as a team, if we were going up to Northwestern, had that duel actually happen, we were actually going to send several backups up there. We thought it was a cool event. It was a good chance to get them out in the spotlight a little bit because we had a situation with Storm Lake High School and MOC Floyd Valley and all of those factors going in, but we're going to kind of have a little showcase high school event going on along with the college event. And so this would be a great time for these guys to get some dual experience, really get to feel what it's like to be put in the fire. And so that was the route we were actually going to go. And I had sent Rick an email. I said, hey, this is no disrespect to your guys. This is just what we feel like is best for our team right now. And they were actually going to be in a similar situation. I think they had a few more starters that were prepped and ready for the lineup, but they had just come off the Missouri Valley 2-day tournament, and they were a little bit beat up. And so it was kind of an odd blessing in disguise. I'm disappointed for the backups that didn't get an opportunity to wrestle. But for, I think, both teams, we tried to make a cool event happen, and the timing was just so tough. A Tuesday night duel, both of us coming off of weekend events, was really tough. And I don't know that either of us were completely distraught when we had to change our schedule around after that.
Yeah, another thing, too, with when you throw in the backups involved and you think about that, well, Northwestern College is in the NAIA. This would not have any impact on the regional seating or anything. It's basically for in-state bragging rights in some situations. So no harm, no foul if that duel even goes on.
Yeah, and that was why we felt comfortable making that decision. We have a handful of guys that are working their butt off every day. We felt like it'd be a great reward for them. It wasn't like we were throwing them to the wolves by any means. We felt like they were ready for that situation. And it was just a bonus if we went up there and were able to compete well and win. And if we didn't, we got those guys some experience on top of what they've been going through in the practice room. So for those guys, I was very disappointed. For the high school kids that I think we had a pretty cool event put together, I'm disappointed it didn't happen for them. But for both of us as college teams, for our teams at the time, probably having the day off was the best thing that could have happened to us.
Then you roll into what is basically the toughest Division III tournament division. I mean, there's some non D3s there, but pretty much this is the D3 Midlands, the D3 Scuffle, the Pete Wilson Wheaton Invitational at Wheaton College, just in the Chicago suburbs there. Brad Kirchhoff places makes it to the second day, and this is the thing for growing programs. It's like, okay, you compete well at the Pete Wilson, that usually bodes well for your season later on down the line.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we go to Pete Wilson. We get to see some different teams, but it also shows you really are you ready to compete in the postseason? Do you have guys that have that ability to wrestle in a 2-day event, to make weight, to go through the grind of a tournament where you're going to see maybe not quite the same as NCAAs, but you're going to see somebody pretty tough. You're not going to go 2-3 matches down the line without seeing somebody that's pretty darn good. So we were really excited. We thought we had a great training cycle going into that, even though it had been a lot of weigh-ins in a row with the Northwestern match getting canceled. We felt pretty good about where we were at going in, and we had a couple of guys that wrestled well, but for the most part, we didn't wrestle well there. I mean, I don't know that there's really any way to sugarcoat it. We didn't wrestle well. Some guys had tough draws right off the bat, but that means you should bounce back and be able to make a run for 2-3 matches after that. And we just didn't have that. So we actually changed some things after we got back from Pete Wilson as far as what we were working on in the room and kind of how we were approaching matches, because we just didn't see the bounce back that we expected from guys. I mean, and being perfectly honest, I don't think Brad wrestled as well there as he has in a lot of other places throughout the year. He just happened to get the job done that day. And because he would not go away and he kept finding ways to score points, but he didn't even look great, I didn't think. There were a couple matches that probably behind the scenes, They don't look like they were close matches on paper, but they were closer than they should have been. And conversely, he wrestled some really good guys and probably lost a couple that he should have won against the better competition there. So it was kind of an odd day for him. Again, really tough tournament. So happy to have a guy place there 2 years in a row. But honestly, not one of our better performances as a team, and we looked just a little bit of a step off. So we changed a few things after that.
Moving into Simpson, and you talked about how Northwestern was going to have something set up that was going to be a real cool atmosphere. Simpson also tried to mix it up with the stage show, kind of like Virginia Tech and Missouri have done. And ultimately, that one came down to heavyweight. You lose a heavyweight, you lose to Simpson 23-21. Got to be a heartbreaking thing to just have the match come down to the very last moment. And we talked before the show about how the guys fought to not give up the bonus points. And, obviously, hats off to Simpson for creating an event type of atmosphere. But, those situations as a coach, and this is your third year, and, you look at your win-loss record, it's not stellar at this point. And you look at matches like this, you're like, just give me that one, man. Give me that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to swallow. Simpson wrestled great. They took advantage when they were able to of almost everything they could. They won the toss-up match at 57. That I think everybody kind of realized that should be a toss-up match with a tough senior that they have there, and one of the best guys in our lineup. I mean, they won that one. That was big for them. I addressed the team after the match, and I honestly don't normally talk to the team much after a match, win or lose, because emotions are usually pretty high. And so I normally, after duels, I kind of bring them in, tell them what the weekend schedule is, and hey, this is what we're going to do when we get back to work. And that's usually about it. I usually give it a little bit of time before I address the team, but I felt like it needed to be said, so I went right into the room with them and listen, this is everybody's fault. There might have been a fall that happened at heavyweight, but this literally is everyone's fault, including Simpson. It's Simpson's fault too, because they wrestled well. So good for them. But this is everyone's fault that we lost this duel. And it was a duel that we absolutely could have won. And we didn't get bonus points when we could. And we probably still didn't save enough, but it was probably more gut-wrenching than anything, because we did have 3 or 4 guys that fought incredibly hard to save bonus points in some really tough situations. By far our best fight that we've had all year, the most passion that we've had in any dual meet all year. And so that makes it that much more heartbreaking when you lose in kind of dramatic fashion. But I was also a little bit encouraged by what I saw. I mean, it still stings a little bit, and until we can get a good taste in our mouth to wash that away, it's still going to sting. But it was a cool environment that we wrestled in. It was probably a little tighter than it needed to be, but they did a good job with a cool environment. They had people literally right on top of us on the mat, and it was a cool, fun event to wrestle in. It was one that you'd really wish you would have found a way to get it done. And hopefully that drives our guys for Wednesday, where we have another conference opponent and, a team that probably is similar to us and Simpson, that, we need to go take advantage the way Simpson did against us.
And we're talking about the last home match of the year, dinner and a show against Nebraska Wesleyan, a new entry into not just Division III, but a new entry into the Iowa Conference. Coach Brandon Bradley got that program up. And in case you're wondering where that is, that's in Lincoln, Nebraska. And understand that I talked to Eric Van Clay, the head coach and AD at Central College earlier this year, about how they brought wrestling to the school, and said that they've really done a great job at really embracing the sport and what it can do for the school there. So Nebraska Wesleyan, a key entry. Dinner and a show, and it's also senior night. So a couple seniors on the roster, actually, according to our glorious roster at bvuathletics.com, which also has a link to this show. 3 seniors: Ernesto Garcia, Andrew Nelson, Tyler Poles. And what have they meant to the program in the time you've been there? Because this is your 3rd year, so they've been there. These are the guys you inherited.
Yes. Yep. These are the guys that saw it through. Well, first of all, we expect to have Tyler back for another year. He's technically a junior right now. Had an injury all of last year. We don't know for certain that we will have him back. We got to go through the whole process with the NCAA, but he seems to fit all the criteria. So the game plan is for Tyler to be back next year. So we're treating him kind of as a junior, kind of as a senior this year. So he actually won't be getting honored on Wednesday night because the game plan is for him to be back. He's going to be back for another year to finish up an additional part of his degree that he decided since he might be back, he added more stuff. So he's going to have, I think, 3 different degrees or 3 different certifications with his degree before he's done. So Tyler will be back next year one way or another. So he'll get honored next year at senior night. But Ernesto and Andrew, Bert and Ernie, those guys, they came here together. They're both from the same town, Fernley, Nevada. They've been roommates all 4 years together. They've meant a ton to the program. They've been great leaders. They've been great examples of how you can stick it out and find success. Neither of them had stellar records when I got here. I think maybe combined between the two of them, they had 10 wins after their freshman year. And little by little, they just kept improving, kept believing in what we were saying. And they're both well above 500 right now. And, team captains, very, very valuable pieces to what we've done. And really, they were kind of the glue that kept everything together after those first couple of years. We had a small group of seniors, and there hopefully will be one of our last groups of small senior classes to come through here as we retain some guys and recruit. But it's very difficult to say how much they've really meant to the program because they've meant so very much to what we've done. And I mean, literally from day one, they were the first people to buy in and believe in what we were doing. And we have very, very close relationships with both of them. Andrew, as close as I am with Andrew is extremely close with Coach White. Ernie being the 25-pounder, we're probably a little bit closer because I've spent a lot of time working out with him. But it's going to be probably a little bit of a tough night for me, honestly. I'm going to be sad to see him go, and I'm hoping that all the things that we're doing with dinner and a show really honors them and makes an awesome environment for them for their one last time here at BV.
Yeah, and as we've had Andrew on the show before and talk about, he's kind of been your utility guy. You could put him anywhere, anytime he needs to go. I mean, he's wrestled a couple different weight classes, and then we've seen the development and Garcia picking up solid wins through the last 2 years. And, when you have kids that kind of, you've experienced this other places that you've been, when high school teammates come to a place together, that's usually going to help them both out. But how much did these two really feed off each other in the years that you've had them?
I think they've been an awesome support system for each other. It's something that's crazy to me. And I don't remember the exact details for Ernesto. I think his mom was here for like orientation and that was it. She hasn't been back to campus since he was a freshman. She'll be here for senior night for him. Andrew's parents were here for a duel earlier in the year. I believe maybe Co and then the BV Open. And they'd never been to campus. These are kids coming all the way across the country from Nevada. They'd never been to campus. So it was a huge leap of faith for them to believe in BV, let alone us as a coaching staff, because we weren't here yet. They believed in Coach Cole and they believed in what BVU was. And they took this huge leap and their families were 100% behind them. But because they had each other, they were able to lean on each other instead of having their parents have to trek across the country so often. They just leaned on each other and they've been really, I mean, there's not a lot more you can ask for. Obviously, we always want guys to win more. They could have won 4 national titles. We would have been okay with that. But they're great students. They're great leaders. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have lived together and they have pushed each other. When one was struggling with one thing, Ernie would be the first one to call Andrew out for something that we'd been telling him to do in the practice room. And if Ernie was doing something a little bit wrong in class, Andrew would be the first one to throw him under the bus to make sure that he got it taken care of. And they haven't had a lot of issues in either respect. but it would be funny to see them, like, they would call each other out right away because out of love for each other, they wanted to see the other one be successful.
Yeah, just an awesome story with two kids from basically nowhere, Nevada, coming out to Storm Lake, Iowa. Now, as we talk about dinner and a show, February 8th, 7 p.m. at Stevens. This is the first of two duels that you close out the regular season. You close out the regular season at Luther on February 10th. But dinner and a show, let's remember last year, this was one of the first things we did to really promote the program. What's different? What's the same? What can fans expect? And how can they still show up for dinner and a show?
So dinner and a show was an idea that, like any other good idea, I stole directly off of someone else. UTC down in Tennessee did an awesome job with it, and I stole the idea from Heath Esslinger. And I don't know if he stole it off of someone else, but I stole it off.
You borrowed the concept. Stole the idea just sounds so just bad. You borrowed the concept. How's that?
I borrowed as much of the concept as humanly possible.
With the exception of the Chattanooga tablecloths. You kind of left those.
Right. So, and I don't know that Heath got enough credit for when they first did it. We got lucky and were able to win a national award last year at the NWCA convention for one of the best promotions in the country, or the best promotion in the country, for a wrestling event. So that was really awesome. I think what we're going to do this year is 10 times better than what we did the year before. And it all started by accident. We are moving into the Dow's Grand Ballroom, which is our main dining hall on campus. And it started because I wanted to move our tables around from where we had them last year up in a balcony to directly down on the floor. And we got approval for that. And then we realized we had a basketball scheduling conflict. So we're brainstorming about ideas on how we're going to make this happen, how we can get everything turned around in time once basketball's done and get everything set up. And Jack Denholm goes, well, why don't we just go to the ballroom? And I was like, yeah, why don't we just go to can we go to the ballroom? Is that even an option? He's like, well, let's find out. He goes, make sure everything's going to fit first. And if everything fits and you have enough space to for it to be legal and you're not up against walls and that kind of thing, let's do it. And I was like, okay. So there was a whole process. We had to go through the President's Council to get it approved, and everybody loved the idea and they signed off. So again, none of this was really my idea. This was all Jack's great idea. And it looks like it's going to turn out awesome tomorrow night or on Wednesday night. We have all of these, we have all but 2 of our tickets sold for the tables for the dining. So we've basically sold out the dining portion. We're going to have spectator seating at floor level directly beside the mat, about 10 feet away from the mat, team benches. And then what I think is really unique and makes it really cool this year is typically our campus dining hour ends at about 7:00. So we're going to open up the back half of the ballroom that's normally divided off. We're going to open up the dividers, make the space even bigger, and our student population will be finishing up dinner, and they'll get the chance to take part of the dinner and a show portion as well. So we're hoping we have a packed house, but we've literally brought wrestling to our students. Instead of asking them to come across campus and get to know us, if they're hungry that day, they're going to be there and they're going to see us. And so we're really excited about that.
Yeah, because that throws me for a loop too. I'm sitting, all right, here we go with Stevens. We'll get it out. I just Googled Dow's Grand Ballroom. This is going to be pretty sweet, folks. It's going to be pretty sweet. And I don't even, I'm looking at it going, okay, where are we putting the wrestling mats? This just seems like an awesome, stellar concept. So you're going to give a tip of the hat to your boss there for that?
Yeah, that was 100% his idea. I initially almost said, no, we can't. Wait, can we do that? Yeah, let's do that if we can do that. So we've had a lot of help from people all around campus to get the things that you probably don't think about when you got to move across campus, but we needed to find ways to get the scoreboards over there. So we've had people around campus in the communications department and event services. They're giving us 60-inch screens so that we can have the scoreboard and the team score. We have people coming in to do time-lapse video to show the setup from beginning to end. Just a lot of different people helping to really make this a cool event. And what was relatively short notice. I mean, in the event planning world, to make this decision about a month out is pretty short notice, and it's come together great.
My question is are your mats Dolomer or Resolites? Because that's going to be because moving them becomes a problem if you've got the heavy stuff.
We have the nice, I believe, and I hope some mat company doesn't get mad at me. And if I get this right, that they can jump on and be an additional sponsor. But I believe we have Easy Flex mats. I know we have lightweight mats.
Okay.
I don't touch them very often, so to know who made them, I'm not 100% sure. But I believe we have an Easy Flex. We did play a cruel prank on a few guys today, and we convinced them we were moving the Resolite mats out of our practice room. But I couldn't keep a straight face long enough. I kept them going for about 2 minutes, and then I lost it. But we did have a couple guys convinced that we were going to move the heavy mats out of the practice room all the way across campus. But we're lucky. We have the lightweight mats. We'll throw them on a roller. We'll make 7 trips over, which really, that's one trip for a couple groups of guys. We'll have the mat set up in probably 20 minutes.
Yeah, again, we're not ragging on any mat company here because you know that Resolite and Dolomer and Tiffin and Easy Flex, and we got a bunch of different ones out there now. But you remember when you were a kid moving mats, and almost everybody had the really older Resolites that were so heavy. It's just like, oh, good, yeah. And then they came out with the more portable ones. We're like, because I love their surface. I love wrestling. I loved wrestling on their surface because my face spent a lot of time in contact with the Resolite, and it was less abrasive when you were getting mashed into it. So I had a little soft spot in my heart for the feel, not necessarily the transport of such things. Yeah,
the heavy mats, I like them. I love the surface as well, but I just have awful nightmares of having to recruit an army anytime you hosted a tournament, especially when I was in like elementary, junior high, and high school. You had to like call half the town so you could set up for your tournament just to get the mats on the floor.
Yeah, and you were hoping as some of these high schools are struggling with numbers, they're like, do we have enough guys to move the mat? That could be a thing. Yeah, maybe that's a deterrent for kids that come out. Look, I don't want to move that mat, coach. Anyway, we're getting off the rails. Last thing we got, again, dinner to show coming up on February 8th, 7 p.m. at the Dow's Grand Ballroom. And I'm saying that with my pinky out. And then you finish up with Dave Mitchell's Luther Norse up there on the 10th, 7 p.m., closing out the week before heading to the regionals February 25th. Going to have a nice long break, 2 weeks between the last dual meet of the season and the regional championships. And what are you thinking going in? Obviously, Nebraska Wesleyan, this is one of a first-year program. Haven't had a whole lot of success on the mat, but they've got good numbers. They've got a young, energetic, good coach that spent his college days down in North Carolina at the same time you were at North Carolina State. So a little, maybe some familiarity there, but maybe more so as you guys get into the Iowa Conference schedules and that program builds. But Nebraska Wesleyan and Luther, what are the goals here as you close out the season?
The goals are obviously to win dual meets. We feel like we have a really good opportunity with Nebraska Wesleyan. Again, if we perform well, if we save the bonus points where we can save bonus points, where we get them where we can get them, we feel like we can put ourselves in a really great position. But Nebraska Wesleyan is not. You talk about them being a first-year program, and they are that in that they have only been around for a year, but they have full numbers. They have guys that are fighting and scrapping hard. They've actually had a very similar schedule to us. And they're going to be excited and hungry too for an opportunity. They feel like, we might be their opportunity this year. So hopefully we prove that wrong, but I know they're going to be excited to come compete against us. So we're hoping it's a loud and crazy atmosphere, and hopefully, our fans, and even if it's our fans yelling or if it's dinner plates clanking together or whatever it is, can hopefully rattle them a little bit, wrestling in a different atmosphere. But, I mean, the goal is to win a dual meet. We know we will have some individuals that win, and that's awesome. But for us to start making the next step as a program, we got to start winning some dual meets. And so that is absolutely where we're at on Wednesday night. And then Same concept against Luther. Luther is always tough. Coach Mitchell never puts a bad program out there. There might be some people that talk about them being a little bit down, but they were third in the country last year. They're down from third in the country. They're not down. So we need to go compete really hard against them as well. Right now, our lightweights are usually the big key. If we can get off and running with our lightweights, that really sets the tone for us and takes some pressure off of some of the younger guys up top. We have a bunch of freshmen, sophomores, 74, 84, and heavy. And so to take some pressure off of those guys is what we're absolutely looking to do.
That'll wrap up this episode of the BV Wrestling Beavercast. Once again, dinner and a show February 8th against Nebraska Wesleyan, 7 p.m. And if you're in the neighborhood, at Luther on the 10th at 7 p.m. For Jeff Brees, this is Jason Bryant. We'll see you as we preview regionals on the next episode of the BV Wrestling Beavercast.
Show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.